if you are going to be getting into making wearables or doing any sort of amigurumi, learning how to do increases and decreases is an essential part of your crochet skills. So today I'm going to show you how to invisibly increase and how to invisibly decrease in a crochet project in order to get really nice shaping without having really visible areas where you've added and taken away stitches. So let's dig right in. I'm Lavina Perry. This is Solo Stitching. Let's stitch. So I made this little sample just to show when we're increasing it's going to get larger, when we're decreasing it gets smaller. And I'm just going to keep working with this same sample to show you how to do your increases and decreases. So I'm using a size G+, which is a 4.5mm hook, and I'm using a medium weight yarn, and I am working with a yarn that doesn't it's not supposed to separate really easily. So if you're new, I always recommend you try to find a yarn that stays together really well so that you're not fighting against split stitches along with trying to learn new skills. So I'm at the end of the row and I've just turned. So if you were going to be stitching along with me and just starting at this row, you would do a chain 11 and then you would single crochet starting in the second stitch from the hook all the way to the end, do a chain 1 and turn, and you should have 10 single crochets. So that's where we are going to be starting. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch across. So if you're stitching along and you have your row of 10 single crochets, we are now going to turn, do a chain 1 and then turn, and you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch across. That's just going to give us a nice foundation to start working our increases. And crochet into that last stitch and do a chain 1, and then we're going to turn. So now we're going to do our first increase, and how I'm going to work this is I'm going to do an increase in the first and the last stitch on each row until we've doubled it and have 20 stitches. So just to give you like an overall idea of how we're doing this. So to do the invisible increase, rather than doing 2 single crochets, which you typically would just put 2 single crochets in the stitch that you were trying to increase, and that creates like a fan of 2 stitches that's going to stick out. And we're trying to keep the front of our project from noticeably having those stitches. So one of the techniques that I've learned that I like is called an invisible increase. And basically what it is that we're going to leave 1 stitch in the front where you can see it, and then we're going to do another crochet into the back loop only so that it sort of hides it. And then when we turn around and work it, we'll work into all of the stitches. So we're first going to work into the back of the stitch only. So we've done our chain 1, we've turned, and now I'm going to insert through the back loop only, do a single crochet, and then I'm going to do another single crochet into that same stitch through both loops. So you can see we have the 2 stitches here, but if we look at the stitch, only that 1 stitch is very visible. The other one's kind of falls behind it. And then we're going to single crochet across. And you can do this same technique if you have increases that you need to do along the row, that's totally fine. It will work exactly the same. You would just stop, do your single crochet in the back loop only, and then single crochet in the same stitch through both loops. And you can see that second stitch is completely hidden behind this stitch. So we're not going to do that for this one, but I'm just showing you. You can do this at any point in the row. For this little sample, I'm just doing them on the end so that we can see how it comes out and then how it comes back in. So keep making your single crochets all the way across. And this is really useful if you're doing amigurumi where you really just want it to look smooth. You don't want to have really visible areas where you've increased or decreased your stitches. And also for clothing is the same way. All right, so we are to the last stitch. We're going to do our second increase. So again, I'm going to go through the back loop only, complete a single crochet, and then through the same stitch through both loops, do a single crochet, and then chain one. And we're going to turn, and now we can see on the back, we see the stitch that we did in the back loop sort of covers the stitch that we did through both. So again, it's not as visible, but if you pull it out, you can see we have both stitches here, and we're just going to single crochet in each stitch across. And to the last stitch, we're just gonna single crochet into that turning chain and chain one and then turn. So now you should have ended with 12 stitches because we did the 2 increases on the row before. And you can see that is coming right out where it belongs. All right, so I'm gonna do 2 more increases if you want to stitch along, just so you can get the hang of it, and then we will do our decreases. So because we're doing our increases in the first stitch and the last stitch, I'm going to start by doing a single crochet into the back loop only, and then a single crochet in the same stitch through both loops. Single crochet across, and when we get to that last stitch, we're going to start by doing a single crochet through the back loop only, and then a single crochet through both loops in the same stitch. Chain one, and then we're going to turn, and we're going to single crochet across, starting in that very first stitch. And doing our last single crochet into the turning chain, chain one, and turn, and we're going to do our last row of increases. So we're going to start with our single crochet through the back loop only of the first stitch, single crochet through both loops of the same stitch, and then single crochet across. And when we get to the last stitch, we're going to do a single crochet through the back loop only, and a single crochet through both loops in the same stitch to do our invisible increase. And then chain one, and we're going to turn and do a full row across, and then I'm going to show you how to do the decreases. And since we're doing 2 increases for each row, every row is going up by 2 stitches, because each time we do an increase, we're adding a stitch. So 2 increases per row is going to add 2 stitches, and it will be the same when we start decreasing. It will go down by 10, and so, or by 2, sorry. If you're needing to decrease very quickly, you can do decreases or increases on consecutive rows. If you're looking for a more gradual decrease, then you can do like we're doing, where we're doing an increase and then a row of regular stitching, or a decrease and then a row of regular stitching to get a more gradual slope. If we were doing an increase on each row, then this would come out much steeper, probably about like this. So just know that how quickly you increase or decrease impacts the angle of the shaping. So like when you're doing a hat, you want it to come up kind of flush, and then you want the increases to come in pretty gradually till you get to the last few stitches. So again, for a hat, you would be using this same technique where you did a row of stitching and then a decrease row, and then a row of stitching and then a decrease row. So it just depends on how steep you want the angle to be and how sharp you want it to be. So that's why we're doing it this way. So I use this technique on doing diaper covers and amigurumi. Obviously, if you're doing little crocheted animals or dolls, they have a ton of shaping, so this technique is really useful with that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and do our decreases. So to do the invisible decrease, what a decrease is that you're taking a number of stitches and you're taking one of them away. So it's shrinking it down. So we're going to be doing a 1 stitch decrease at a time. So we're going to be turning 2 stitches into 1 stitch. And we're going to do that by working in the back loops only, so that it doesn't look, so if I'll show you, if we were doing a typical decrease, you're gonna go through 2 loops and then pull through all 3, and it makes a very obvious thing in your crocheted fabric. So you can definitely tell that we've done something at this point. You can see that stitch kind of being pulled over. So what we're trying to do is to make that less obvious, so that it just looks like it was shaped, but you can't tell exactly how it was done. So it just gives it a cleaner, nicer look. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook through the back loop only, pull up a loop, go to the next stitch through the back loop only, and pull up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And the front of our stitching is not affected. You can't see the 2 stitches being pulled together. And then we're going to continue on our row with our single crochets in each stitch until we get to the last 2 stitches. And again, just like with the increases, you can use this at any point in the row depending on where you're trying to create the shaping. So if I was doing a like a chevron, I might want to bring this down in the middle of this to create a dip in the fabric. So I still would use the same technique, going through the back loop of 2 stitches, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. It would be the same process. It would create the same shape, but it would not affect the front of the stitches where you could see it. And that's the reason why we do the invisible increases and decreases, because we don't want the front of our stitching to be impacted by the increasing and the decreasing. So since we are not doing that decrease, we're going to go ahead and finish our row of single crochets until we get to the last 2 stitches. Alright, so we are to the last 2. We're going to follow the same procedure where we go in through the back loop, pull up a loop, in through the back loop, pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So we've taken away a stitch and done that decrease without impacting the front of our stitching. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And again, we're just going to do a regular row of single crochets on the back side, starting in that first stitch, and single crochet all the way across. And single crochet into that last stitch, and then we'll do a chain 1 and we'll turn. We'll do our second set of decreases. So in the very first stitch, we're going to insert into the back loop only, pull up a stitch or a loop, insert to the next stitch, back loop only, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're going to continue on down the row, working regular single crochets into each stitch till we get to the last 2 stitches. Here we go. Okay, so we are at the last 2 stitches, and we're going to insert through the back loop only, pull up a loop, insert through the back loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And then do a chain 1. So now we can see with our 2 rows of decreasing done that now we're starting to make the slope back in. So we came out with our increases and now we're coming back in. So let's go ahead and go one more across here, and we'll do one more set of decreases just to get practice so that you start gaining that muscle memory, and next time you have a project where you need to be doing increases or decreases, it's not something that you have to think so hard about. You'll already know how to do it. All right, do our last 2 stitches. Chain 1, and then we will turn for our last set of decreases. So insert through the back loop, pull up a loop, insert through the back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and then continue by single crocheting into each stitch until you get to the last 2 stitches. All right, so we are to the last 2 stitches. We're going to do our last decrease, back loop only, pull up a loop, back loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's it. That is how you do invisible increases and decreases that leave a very nice front, very clean, very smooth, and on the back you can see where we've done all of the stitching. So this would be like the inside of your sweater, the inside of your diaper cover, the inside of your hat. So you're not going to be seeing that. This will be the front of your project here. So it just looks very nice to do it that way. And there's lots of ways to do increases and decreases, but this is my favorite way to do them, and I think it just gives it a nice clean look. So anyway, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them down into the comments, and in the description I will have a link to the ultimate guide to crochet for your mental health. You can grab that downloadable PDF and learn how to turn your hobby into a tool for your mental and emotional health, because crochet is not just fun, it's good for you. So until next time, happy stitching.